what is your favorite moment in the movie? Do you have a favorite moment?
I love when when he pulls up and discovers the house and discovers Norma, and she like looks out the window at him and she's like, you get in here, you know, and I love that moment. I love when Norma calls Betty Schaefer to be like, you know, to just kind of tell her off and tell her to stay away from Joe. I like her moments of possession over him. And I think like the best parts of the movie are when Joe and Norma are together. What about you? What's your favorite?
I love that moment when she stands up and watching the movie and saying like how stars now are so small and the light of the projector lights her up, and it's like, I think such an iconic image. But the ending, love the ending. But yeah, she's such a powerful performer, and it's also funny how like she wasn't like that in real life at all. She was like super happy actor, like working on TV. She had her time. Her prime time was in the 20s in the silent era, Gloria Swanson, but she was a super happy wealthy person, and she was, you know, I think Billy Wilder tried to cast Greta Garbo and more famous people at the time, and everybody passed on it. And then I mean, I think I forgot who told her, like one of her friends, like I think it was Frank Capra or some big director, said like, you know, you're gonna be remembered by this. And yeah, she is. It's like such a awesome.
It's such a good performance because it's both grounded and big.
Yeah.
Like that is impossible to achieve. And I didn't realize this, but did you know that the movie was categorized as a dark comedy?
I think because everything he did, he worked so much in comedy, right? That all of movies like The Apartment and like they all have some humor in it. I mean, Joe is very sarcastic. There's like this punchline that he says, but I think it's such a big drama that
I know, me too. I never detected it as a comedy, but then when I was rewatching it, I was like, oh, it is funny when she's like, have you noticed I lost 1/2 pound since Tuesday?
Right.
I'm like, that's kind of jokey.
It has a lot of sarcasm, I think, like and a lot of like, I guess it's a satire of the business, although it is, like you say, a pretty accurate portrait.
Totally. Like, don't you 100% feel that is realistic, that this woman would fall in love with him and want to control him and buy him things, and also feel like this guy Joe, who like needs money, would just try to take advantage of this old woman until he can't take it anymore and needs to get out, and like everything feels so grounded and real. And then even just like the moment where he escapes to that New Year's Eve party with all the young people, where he was like, I just need to be around young, happy people.
Yeah, and his dress with, I mean, everybody's looking at how he's dressed and all of that. And I completely understand him.
Yeah.
What would you do to survive? And, you know.
Yeah, I do understand it, but I get really mad because I feel bad for Norma.
Yeah. I think it's tragic for all of the characters.
Yes.
No, because also Max, he's in love with this, it was his first wife whenever she was like 20.
Okay, those are also my favorite moments. It's almost like the Alfred Hitchcock like twist moments where you learn like the dark twist that he was her first husband. Like that, I love like a juicy, dramatic reveal.
Yeah. And he feeds constantly her illusions to keep her like going. Yeah, it's I don't know. I think it's a super powerful movie, like the narration, everything. Also in terms of like the movie making part, I always love the photography, the fact that it starts with a dead guy telling a story. I never seen that.
That is like an underrated, well, probably not underrated, but for me, like I never think about that moment, but when I think about movies that I love, they have to start so hot and big. Like I always say my favorite kind of movie is a movie that starts with a bank robbery. Like I always think of The Dark Knight, or what's the movie, Dog Day Afternoon. Like, and to me, I know this isn't a bank robbery, but it's like dead man in a pool. What's going on? Yeah. It's very dramatic. It takes you in because I'm like everyone else, like I get bored really easily, and so I just want a big splashy
it was very
start.
modern in that way. I think like every movie now starts with a little like hot opening thing, and then it goes back to slow narration. I don't know if you know that the movie opened actually with the corpse being dragged into the corners, and then all the dead bodies would start talking to each other, but people laugh so hard on the test screenings that then it kind of broke the mood of the movie or the tone, and then they changed it for that
Wait,
opening.
really?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I never seen that opening, but I read about it.
I would love to see that.
Right.
That
Wait,
sounds really...
corpses talking?
Right, indeed. So another thing that I heard you said a lot and that I saw in Norma is that you have thrive on jealousy. And I guess my question is it that bad, or was it that bad? And would you ever kill anyone?
I will say this, I really feel for Norma. She's in love with this guy, even though it was very one-sided the whole time. I get why she shot him. Like, I do get it. And I wish that he would have just left, or, you know, earlier in the film before she was too in love with him. But yes, I used to be very jealous in relationships and very possessive. And so I very much relate to that. But now I've learned after I've worked on myself and like, you can't be too attached to other people. But Norma could not handle rejection. Like, him leaving challenged her reality of her being a star that no one would ever leave.
Right.
And so she had no choice. Like, the only way to keep her reality working right was to kill him. It's like, babe, I get it. I get it.
And is your jealousy only related to like, I guess, relationships, or are you jealous of anyone these days?
I think it's very much like a romantic, possessive jealousy thing.
I see.
That's really where that part of me lived. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever feel like, you know, coming up on your stand-up, like if someone wasn't as funny as you but made it before you, or like did you have that type of
Oh,
thing?
yeah, of course. Like,
And it's
of course I think like you're always going to go through those phases where you're like comparing yourself to other people. You're like, oh my God, like they're so unoriginal and they're just famous because they're pretty, or, you know, all these things, like totally, like, yes, of course. That I don't understand how anyone could exist in this field and not have those experiences and those feelings.
Yeah.
You know, of course, like, yeah, you have to really like just keep your eyes on your own paper.
Yeah.
And really practice that and live that, because that's kind of the only thing that matters anyway.
Yeah, I think it's difficult, but I agree 100% that it's so easy to compare yourself and to feel like something, you know. So all this, you know, like this director made it at 26. And
yeah.
like, you know.
Oh, totally. It's like, bitch, I'm 35. Like,
right.
People are 22 and they have everything. But I remember when I was younger, you know, I really... Like, we did not have a lot of money growing up. And I remember my dad would always say, like, if I wanted something that we couldn't afford, he would say, like, look, there's always going to be people who have more than you. And there's always going to be people who have less than you. And that has really stuck with me. It's like, oh, whenever I even get a pinch of any kind of feelings, I'm like, hey, girl, like, always people way ahead, always people way. So just, like, be grateful for where you're at and just stay on your path.
Yeah.
Easier said than done, for sure, but with practice, like, anyone can get in that mindset, I believe.
Yeah, I had to go through the same thing of like, yeah, I can't. I have to just focus on my own lane and let, you know, people do their own thing, because if not, it's gonna be torture.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the movie, there's a scene where like that you kind of mentioned before, where like Norma goes through this insane beauty routine. And I was wondering, do you have a beauty routine?
No. In fact, that is the most sad moment of the movie for me. I hate that. Like, I love it, but it makes me really sad because she does all these like facial treatments and like, you know, the face mask. And I hosted a beauty podcast for 3 years, and I don't believe in any skincare stuff. I think it is all like marketing, all just trying to make money and prey on like people's insecurities. I'm sure some of it is scientifically backed, but I'm like, I don't care. My thing is like, I'm dealing with the looks that I have. I'm going to make the most of these and not be desperate, because that's like, again, that's like such a sad part of it, is like her desperation to look younger and more beautiful. Well, gosh, if I see that, I'm like, normally, like, you're so much more than your looks. You're like, you've lived this fascinating life. And if you could just tap into reality and discuss and talk, you would be so interesting and you'd have so much validation through that way rather than just like trying to have perfect skin.
Right. But if you, I mean, even today, if you're a woman and you are a performer of sort, you have to deal with some sort of like comments, like, and I'm not even saying the mob online and all that, but like things where like you're too tall or too short or you're too skinny or too fat or you're too blonde or for to get a role. And like, so I guess like you deal with this the same way that you deal with any other rejection.
Yeah, I mean, for years people would say, well, you're not skinny enough to be the pretty girl and you're not fat enough to be the fat girl, so you need to figure it out. Like, you need to pick one. At the open mic, I would try to get on stage and someone's like, I have to put the other girl up, she's prettier than you. Like, totally, yes. And it's kind of funny.
It didn't get through you.
No, who cares? Like, everyone, I also believe like everyone is ugly, everyone is hot. Like, you are what you want to be.
And how would you teach that to? I mean, I see a lot of like younger people, like not even related to the industry, but that all of those comments like really tear people down, and there's like a lot of like they go through very dark phases at 15 or 16 where like everybody's telling them that these ideals of beauty, they are not conform to that.
Yeah.
So what would be your advice, or how would you?
I always look at it like, if I want 100 people to like me, I have to also agree to the deal that 100 people will hate me. That's like the deal I've signed up for. And in order to find those 100 people who really like me, I'm going to also meet those 100 people who don't like me. And that's just the way it is. And I can't change it. And that's the deal I'm making. I'm signing up and I'm doing it.
I like that.
Yeah.